Hey everyone, welcome back to another Smite video. In this one, we're going to be going over some Khepri gameplay in a really cool ranked match that I had. So here, just like with the Sylvanas game, I'm just going to kind of be going over everything I'm doing. So hopefully you guys can get a better idea and understanding of what's going on, what's going through my head, and all that kind of cool stuff. So let's kind of get into it. First off, we're obviously just going to group the buffs up like we normally do. I do decide to go Benevolence first, as well as going into T1 Thebes, and I do go Slow Curse right down here. And pretty much what I want to do as Khepri is sort of like stack mitigation for my ally. Make my allies take a lot of reduced damage. So Slow Curse is going to help allow do that. And same thing with Compassion once I go into that. As well as Khepri 2. If you guys don't know or aren't familiar with Khepri 2, whenever you hit an ally with it, it's going to grant them 30% at max rank, that is. It's going to grant them 30% damage mitigation. So they're essentially taking 30% reduced damage, so they can only take at most 70% of the overall damage. That's like, to put that into perspective, that's like a Scylla ulting your carry for 1k, and instead of doing 1k because they have Khepri 2 on them, it's going to do 700 instead. So 300 damage off, that's insane to think about. But that's the kind of build that we're going to go for this game. Whenever I do play Khepri, I do a way more like protection strat, because I'm a backline support. I want to position the backline. So I want to protect my backline as much as possible. That's how I do it. I also started my 2. I always start my 2 for clear. Now, level 2, I actually usually get my pluck. But the reason I didn't get my pluck this game is because they have a lot of interruption for me. And so I decided instead to just get my 3. Because the root is, always going to go off. It's really good into the Marty, because Marty doesn't have any mobility. So once he gets rooted, he's literally stuck there for the duration of the root. And so because of that, I just decided to go into my root over my pluck, because Geb can easily disrupt it. Unfortunately, we don't see the hurt coming over, and there's no call out for it, so we end up dying. And yeah, we get first blooded by inbound. All right, so I'm also going to be skipping over like a lot of the deaths, so we can skip those portions. But so now we're back over here. Relics are down. Unfortunately, like I said, we got ganked. It is what it is. But Newt is a really, really heavy clear character. So we actually, like, in this matchup, we actually, I think, should win, like, clear a little bit. I don't know, it's kind of tough because Marty has heavy clear too. Khepri and Geb don't have the best clear. Now, Khepri actually has decent clear, I should say. I won't say Khepri doesn't have the best, because he does have decent clear. So, like, clear-wise, we do kind of win a little bit. Khepri should have a little bit more pressure, but now we're obviously, like, we're down a little bit because of that gank. Now, I will say one mistake that the enemy made here is not going for our purple, not invading, or not being close enough. Obviously, they're trying to, as you can see. But, like, they weren't close enough to invade our purple, and that's kind of where they messed up, and we're able to drag it back. Whenever you're playing dual lane, especially if you have pressure, you need to really go for the buff invades. The buff invades are what's going to get the enemy behind, because it's farm. Obviously, they're not getting in farm that you're getting, right? Think about a buff invade as you get farm and they don't, so it's almost like 2x. Now, it's not quite 2x, because you don't get as much farm for, say, clearing their camps as you do for clearing your camps in the early game. Smite has that in the game to sort of reduce snowballing, so I believe it's about 70 or 75% farm reduction until you hit about 10 minutes if you clear enemy camps. But you're getting like about, say like 1.75 or 1.5 that, so that's really big. Here they just tower dove us and of course just screwed up. We played that really, really well. Actually, my Khepri passive ended up saving Donkey's life here, which was really, really good. So there, I was just kind of like typing in game chat. That's why I was standing still. You have the game for Twig? Yeah, we should play it sometime. It looked really good last night. So after we killed him, okay, I accidentally like misclicked my. Okay, I do this a couple times this game by accident, but don't mind that. Don't mind that. I like to like kind of move my fingers and I accidentally hit spacebar, but. After we killed them, we recognized that they didn't have their buffs, right? Because they were being a little bit aggressive on our buffs and our tower line. And so they dove us. That's another thing, too. It's good to be aggressive, but you have to recognize when your buffs are coming up. And that was a really, really big mistake that they made. Now, obviously, they were trolling a little bit for diving us like that. Like, you really shouldn't, not this early in the game. Maybe, like, in another 5 minutes, you can do that. But when you do that, you have to make sure that you get your buffs. Because if that fails, right, then we can just get your buffs. And that's exactly what we do to their purple. So we took something that they had pressure, and because they screwed up and we punished them for it, we like almost double punish them in a sense, because we also take their buffs. So that's just something to kind of keep an eye out for. Here, I just go ahead and grab Thebes, of course, and grab 2 wards. You want to make sure you're warding up. One thing I try to do as a support is I try to ward their back camps. Well, I try to see, like, if the enemy jungler is ganking a lot, I'll kind of ward our side hooks. And when I say our side hooks, I just mean, like, our little corners from the jungle in which they can enter lane. But typically what I like to do is actually get wards up on their buffs. That way we can actually get buff timers, and also incentivizes the jungler as well to kind of come over. Because if the jungler knows that by looking at the map when their buffs are going to be up, for example, looking at their blue, how it's ticking up right now, the jungler knows that, then they're more incentivized to actually come over because they know that they're going to actually get some sorts of farm rather than sort of like winging it. Here we know they're invading. We can't really defend our buffs because Newt's not here. She unfortunately died. But we do try to again punish their like overstay if we can do it. And this is actually really good. We get a rotation from our mid laner and our jungler as well. But our jungler kind of like, I think he teleported into the wall or something like that right there. It was kind of weird. He kind of screwed up. But we get a really nice Khepri ult off onto him, get the Geb, and we end up getting inbound the Hercules. So overall, super, super good by us. Really nice rotations from the boys. Unfortunately, I think CERN does miss a wave, and that's another thing you have to look at too. If you are invading, you got to watch out for obviously the jungler in the mid laner. It depends how much pressure they do have in mid. So if like you have a lot of pressure, then if your mid laner and jungler have a lot of pressure, then they're gonna most likely be able to invade like with you, right? Or defend you from getting invaded. But if they don't have a lot of pressure, then like maybe the enemy jungler mid laner can invade with their dual lane. So you just have to see like mid lane pressure extends past mid lane, right? That actually influences and goes into overflows into the side lanes as well. So that's one thing you have to sort of keep your mind out for, keep an eye out for. Here, obviously we know they're buff timers thanks to us getting it before and putting wards there. So we just go ahead and get that. Now notice how I position around the enemy buff. So Hunter's obviously an auto attack can only hit one person unless you're say playing Heim or something like that, or have some specialized enhanced auto attacks. So because of that, whenever I'm stealing buffs, especially in dual lane, I'm always positioning to put my body in between the buff and the enemy ADC. And that way it'll increase our chances of getting said buff. Because yes, they can maybe have abilities that go through it, but I'm blocking a lot of their auto attacks, or I'm blocking all of their auto attacks. It's the same thing like whenever you're trying to stop Fafnir from stealing an objective, right? Like you know that Fafnir's hammer can only hit one person, one enemy player, so you position yourself to body block the hammer while you're say clearing pyro, while you're clearing Gold Fury, to maximize the chance of you getting the buff. So that's kind of the same thing I'm doing here, but for ADCs. I said this in my other video too, but this side camp here is actually worth more than the shield buff. So if you're ever like losing shield buff, or even just like contesting the side camp, it's actually worth a lot of gold. So it's something that to keep your mind on. Here I thought Susano was ganking. That's why I was kind of pinging it, because I was like behind these guys. And then he went mid, then he like kind of comes back over here. We end up getting Mario out, which is good. I still have my Khepri out. But I think this was just way too forced. Susano comes in. Actually, wait, no, this wasn't the forced one. Sorry, this is a different one. No, we had a really good dive. We had a really good dive. There'll be one later. I think that's a little bit too forced. But no, we had a really good dive right here, and pretty much all I'm doing is slow cursing. I just tried to peel for the newt, and I did. And I think we end up killing this guy. No, we don't, unfortunately. I think right there, the CERN just has to play to kill him. I mean, maybe he can run out, but yeah, Susano gets killed off that too. We do kill the Herc though, and then somehow like my nuke gets killed too. That's hilarious. But yeah, no, overall I think it was like a pretty good fight. I think we just kind of overstayed after we got out. So typically in those cases, you just kind of want to run. It's like getting Gold Fury, right? Like 9 times out of 10, after you get Gold Fury, you want to just retreat. You got the objective. You got what you need to get. And from that point, you just need to go ahead and retreat. Green buff is also super, super important when you're playing support, right? So you want to take your green buff and, yeah, just take the green buff. I don't know where I'm going with that. Just make sure you get the green buff. Bada bing, bada boom. It also gives you sustain. So HP 5, MP 5, that kind of jazz. So if you feel like you're lacking on mana, just make sure you're picking it back up. Also, too, one thing I kind of forgot to mention earlier about Khepri too as well. I mean, you can just read it reading the ability description, but we are double hunter this game and 4 physicals, if you guys have noticed, right? So we have Susano, we have CERN, we have Newt. Her name is Nut, but it's actually pronounced Newt, which I didn't know. Fun fact. And we have Odin. And the thing about it is, obviously, 4 Fizz means that they're going to be building a lot of physical prots. Cool thing about Khepri 2 is when you hit the enemy with Khepri 2, it actually shreds 25% of their physical protections. Only physical, not magical. Let me make that perfectly clear. Only shreds their physical prots. But it's cool into double ADC comps. In fact, I actually used to run this back when they had a comp scene when I was playing comp. Sometimes because it was super, super nice, but you can blow up frontline with that, right? You're shredding 1/4 of their entire protections, and that's obviously not accounting for your hunter's prots. So like if your hunter has XE, for example, and you have Khepri 2, like you guys are shredding a ton of prots, and then your hunter also has other percent ped like Dom or Titan's Vein, like whatever they're getting, right? So you have so much shred, and you can easily blow up a tank. I mean, if you 2 a tank late game, and you have a double ADC comp, no matter how many prots they have, and then you pluck that tank, your backline will blow that tank up. So that's one thing that's really, really cool about Khepri. He actually works really, really well with double ADC comps because he has literally 25% prot shred for physicals, which is insane to think about. BDK, once you kill it, grants you the ability to see all of the enemy wards on the map for about 60 seconds. You can see a little symbol down on my status bar right next to the green buff. And that way you can kind of go around the map and kill the wards. So not only does it give a little bit of global golden XP to everybody on the map, on your team, but on top of that, you're getting extra gold from killing enemy wards. So each ward is worth 50 gold. I mean, that's a lot of gold if you kill a lot of wards. Here, I see they're converging on my Susano, so try to do some stuff. Unfortunately, we missed some CC, but we end up getting the slow curse off on the Hercules, and it works out in the end, which is really, really nice. And then there, again, misclicked ult. That's a really bad ult. I never meant to do that ult. And then I don't know. I don't know why my Susano went in with that. That was clearly a horrible ult. But he accidentally went in with that. That was just me just fat fingering my spacebar again. Like I said, it happened a couple times this game. So that's my bad. Really bad ult. Didn't mean to do any of that. And so here we get 2 more wards off our respawn. And I see that Newt is getting dove, or I hope I do, but she's backing, so we're good. Looks like I was reading chat. I saw my face turn there. BDK is about to be up though. So kind of want to play around that. And we also have our little beacon that's up on the map as well. So we want to play around both of these things. CERN is nicely split pushing mid. We're actually like pretty... We're in a pretty good spot right now, I'd say. Like our comp actually scales pretty well because we do have a Khepri. And our early game pressure is like pretty good too. So we're in a pretty good spot right now. And I'm getting this BDK. This is a really important objective, by the way. This will despawn at about 15 minutes in the game. Definitely as a support, you kind of want to see if you can rotate around for this. But next play is Beacon. That's our next objective, so we want to come over here. Whenever you're playing support, or whenever you're playing Khepri in particular, you always want to try to maximize your 2 by getting it off on both your ally and the enemy. So again, remember, it gives percent mitigations to your allies, which is what I would prio, by the way, over 2ing the enemy. I would always prio percent mits. Here we get a nice little ult on ourselves. See that 2 right there, I'm pretty sure like negate a lot of damage from the Herc boulder, which is really good. And then we ended up backing here. One thing I actually want to talk about too is this breastplate pickup that we've had here for a little bit. So the reason why I like breastplate on Khepri a lot is because I've said this in the past, but cooldown, we're in like a super cooldown centric meta, I think, right now. Like cooldown support is just super, super nice and super needed in my opinion. And Khepri doesn't, like the best cooldown option is Pridwin by far, but Khepri doesn't really use Pridwin that well. But the thing about Khepri is that he's also like really mana hungry. He uses a lot of mana because you're consistently spamming 2 onto your allies. And as you guys can see, Khepri's 2 is literally 90 mana, which is insane to think about. And so Breastplate's actually a really, really good pickup because not only is it giving him 20% cooldown, so it's matching the cooldown that Pridwin would give, but it's also giving him MP5 and about 300 mana. So he gets mana sustained and increased maximum mana, which is super nice. Unfortunately, we couldn't save our Newt there. It is what it is. And then I kind of misplayed this a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, I believe I ended up dying here. I kind of like walked into their abilities, into their lockdown, which was just a really bad play by me. There, I kind of wanted to space out a little bit more. Like, the second my Newt's dead, like, the thing is, I want to go up there and try to body block best I could. But the second my Newt's dead, there's not really much I'm going to be able to do there, so I need to back up. So my spacing and positioning there was a little off, which is why I ended up dying. We'll just kind of, like, go through this stat, though. That was a nice try by Wake. What the fuck just happened? Oh, wait, Wake is actually shitting on him. Up, AP blink.
An ally has been slain.
So off respawn, not really looking to do anything too crazy. I mean, we're just off respawn. We want to keep farming. We're actually like down in farm, like a decent amount. I think it's just because we've been rotating a lot. That's the thing you got to be conscious of. Like if you want to rotate a support, but if you're overly rotating and the enemy support is like farming a little bit more, you will go down on levels. So right now we're about down. I wouldn't say 2 levels, but about like a level and a half maybe. But let's just talk about this Herc fight real quick. So we get a nice little root off on the Herc. That's his beads. And here we can just try to hit Slow Curse. And Slow Curse is going to help stop the healing, which is like what you just saw. It stopped his healing. It also helps if like he dashes away from me. And I'm a little bit of friendly BM. Nothing crazy. Bobby and I love each other. A little bit of friendly BM to Bobby. But it's going to help stop the Herc healing. And also too, I threw up the Slow Curse just in case he was able to get dash off before I could get pluck off. So there'd still be a little bit of lockdown on him before that. Here we want to make sure we 2 our Newt, which is huge. We plucked the Marty into the Cernalt, which was big. And then now he's ulting. I want to look back at my allies, make sure they're good. And we also just want to dive this a little bit. Get a nice little pluck off on him. Unfortunately, he beezes. And again, another really good 2 on the Newt. Every single, I cannot stress enough, the biggest thing we can be doing in every single fight with Khepri is just 2ing our allies. That is like the biggest thing. Khepri 2 is his best ability in my opinion. It actually gets overshadowed, I think, by his ult. His ult's great. It's a fantastic ult, but his 2 is insane. So here, yeah, I think this is like a really good goal call because again, we're double ADC, so we shred objectives, right? So we want to 2 this objective. The prot shred doesn't just work on enemy players, but also works on anything. That means Titan, Gold Fury, all that kind of shit. I actually thought they stole it at first because the Stygian Beacon text popped up, and I was gonna get pissed, but they didn't get it, so we're good to go. But yeah, so we just want to make sure that like we're using our 2-on-2 objectives when both our hunters are there shredding. Try to stop the Skeb from shielding, but he unfortunately gets it off. This is the play I was talking about where I kind of like pressed this a little bit too much. I was like, all right, I have ult, let's just get in here. But then they start showing up. Super bad pluck in. I end up dying. All around, just kind of like a bad play by me. All right, so here we're off respawn. I just want to show that we picked up Erosion. So for those of you that don't know who or what Erosion does, because it's a relatively new item, or it's a newer item to Smite, as in like within the last season or 2. It pretty much reduces shields, reduce shielding. So it's going to be good against Geb because it's going to reduce his shielding. Here we get a really nice 2 onto the Odin. And the Slow Curse is going to also reduce Geb shielding. And again, just really, really good 2s. I mean, every single fight, I cannot stress this enough. It is insanely important to keep getting these 2s off onto your allies. And I will keep stressing it because it is just so damn important. Great pluck onto the Merc there for the kill. Yeah, from here, I'm just kind of looking to farm a little bit. There's not really much that we can kind of do on the map besides maybe pushing stuff up. Like, I don't... Oh, actually, when we see him rotate, yeah, we do actually end up calling this FG. This is kind of like... My CERN called this. It's an interesting call. We know Marty TP'd over, so it's not the worst. And plus, we have a CERN mid. You can't really... You can never do this, by the way, if you have a regular mage mid. This is one of those, like, we have an EDC mid kind of thing, so, like, we could call this, or we have an EDC here, so we can call this. I also think like here, like Geb's put himself in a really bad position. It's a position to flank my allies, but CERN should be getting off the FG and killing the Geb. You always want to kill Geb there every single time. It just kind of like makes the most sense to do, just because like if anything else, like you're baiting them into the objective, if that makes sense, so you can get some kills. So that's what we did there. I kind of held my ult there for a little bit. It ended up working out, but then my CERN just got caught lazy back, unfortunately. But yeah, there, like, you always just want to go for that kill. My CERN not going for the kill was really troll onto the Geb initially. Like, if we get the kill initially, who knows, maybe we can hop back on it. But even if we can't, at least we get a kill, we get some farm, and then we can go right back to farming. We're only 19 minutes into the game. It's not that big of a deal, right? Whether we get FG or not with 3 people. But... yeah, so I mean, like that was like an iffy call, but yeah, I respect it, right? You gotta risk it for the biscuit sometimes. Once I get the Shoguns online, it should be a lot better too. Here we're just rotating mid to get some farm. Honestly, I probably right here I should be actually just going back to my buff camps, and grouping up buffs for my Newt. She actually might. I think she probably clears this by herself. Yeah, she does. So, like, here I could have, instead of going to mid, I could have just grouped up on these buff camps, grouped it with her, and then we could have dual split and got a lot of XP from it. So, that pathing, it's, you know, kind of want to prioritize my buffs a little bit. We are almost level 15 too, by the way, which is going to be huge. So we're going to be able to get compassion. And speaking of items, of course, we're itemizing into Shogun's Kasari because we do have double ADC, right? So we want to make sure that they do what they need to do. Here I get a really good 2 onto my Newt. So she's just taking like so much reduced damage to the Marty. He beats that, so we want to hold that. And then we're just going to slow curse just to make sure. We probably don't ever have to slow curse there, but my friends have like a little joke that I slow curse too much. But the thing about it is that there's just been so many things I've seen, so many times I've seen people get away 1 HP. That's just like, bro, like, I'm just going to slow curse, you know? Again, a really good... So right here, this is a really good example. If I don't get a 2 off on this guy, I'm watching him see his HP bar. If I don't get a 2 off on Wake right there, I'm going to have to ult him because he actually does die to AP. So that's like a really, really good example of Khepri 2 kind of in action. So my ult would be wasted right now if I hadn't 2'd him. So that, I again, just keep stressing it to make it super important. You just need to make sure that you're getting 2s off on allies consistently as much as you can in every single fight. That is like your primary objective every single fight. That's how you're going to make your allies tankier. Nice little pluck on this guy. And then we can just go on FG here. My Cern's a little weak, so I'm kind of watching this a little bit, but I do still have ult up, and I can also tomb if I need to as well to reduce the damage he takes. But, I mean, we're double hunter, dude, with a Khepri. Like, we're going to shred this thing. Again, I'm shredding these FG's prots every single time I 2 it. Hit my ally with it, hit the FG with it, so we're shredding its prots and giving my ally mitigation versus it. Or just in general, so, like, yeah, we just get this, like, every single time, I think. So that's a really good call. And you got to be really careful against double ADC comps because on one side they're, you know, double ADC, so they are a lot of physical, so sometimes they can be like a little bad. I do like having a more traditional comp with a mage. But on the flip side, if you give them space, if you give them room to breathe, they will be able to shit on and destroy objectives. That is one thing that you always have to watch out for. Another thing too is part of the reason why I went sprint this game or sprint this game is because sprint actually gives attack speed, as you saw me hovering just now, and that attack speed is really good, obviously, for a double ADC comp. So now I'm giving attack speed with my Shoguns to my ADCs, and when I sprint them, I'm also giving them attack speed as well. Here, we just want to focus on peeling for our Newt best we can. Get a nice 2 onto Odin. This guy's waving goodbye. Yeah, you already know, bro. When they wave goodbye, you know they know that they're toast. I love that. I love that about this game. Just seeing the enemy emote. It's like, yep, he knows he's done. Here, you just want to look for kills. Same exact thing with like the FG play. You always want to look for kills here. No point sitting on objectives. You want to kill them. And again, just 2ing our allies best we can. We're holding ult a little bit. We're trying to be aware of everything. This is what makes Khepri so difficult, by the way, is trying to be aware of literally everything that's going on. Beautiful. One thing to note, and I actually mentioned this in game, but if you're Geb right there, there's just a little side note, ult and then 2, or ult and then just kind of roll away. And the reason why you don't want a 2 then ult is because the 2 is a knockup, which is considered true hard CC. And true hard CC gives you 2 stacks of DR. Now, what's DR? DR stands for diminishing returns. So whenever you get hit by a CC, you get stacks of DR on you, which will make follow-up CC within a certain amount of... Beautiful ult right there, by the way. But which will make follow-up CC within a certain amount of time, like, pretty much have reduced duration. So there he hits me with his 2, granting me a 40% reduced duration for the next CC ability, pretty much. And so that's why his ult didn't even stun me for close to 2 seconds. And then, yeah, here we just get Phoenix. This is what makes Khepri so lethal. Like, he's able to, like, hard permabuff his allies while, again, being able to grant a resurrection. I mean, it's just insane. We're just popping 2s. That's, like, second we get a 2-3-man 2 off like that in a fight, like, it's just so good. Fortunately, Cern dies, but that's fine, because, you know, we already got the Phoenix. Dying here, honestly, like, here we're just kind of goofing off and fighting. In an actual game, like, I think we would just retreat and kind of reset. But dying there is just kind of like, you know, for fun. We're just kind of like killing each other for fun. So there's literally no value to doing this. We never get this. Herc's up in 4 seconds. Smarty's here. Like, this is kind of just us goofing around, having a good time. Dude, Wake is actually hitting these insane... That was an insane Herc pull, by the way. Oh my goodness. But Wake is hitting these insane Susano bounces. You can, like, bounce people on top of your head with Susano. Oh, look at that. Dude, that Herc boulder, like, I mean, you guys can rewind that if you want to. That Herc boulder, because I tutor and have compassion, did so much less damage than if I just didn't have that at all. So that's a big thing. That's cool. That's cool to see. But yeah, you can like bounce the people that are knocked up with Susano. You can like bounce them on your head for like an extra knockup. It's kind of insane. Here I was kind of like deciding on what I wanted to go, and I was like, okay, like I could go Void Shield. I was trying to find Void Shield. It gives like 10% reduced physical prots, and I was like, I think Binding's probably a little bit better. I was talking with my chat. My chat was like, yeah, Binding's probably better. I was like, yeah, you guys are probably right. And then I just scrapped the whole thing and said, I'm doing some fun stuff, and I'm gonna go E-Staff. So E-Staff was the next runner up, but I think like Binding overall right there is probably our best bet. No, it doesn't give CD. I know. Here we're just gonna pick on the Bobby, which is nice, and looks like Pyro's up, so I guess we should start doing this here soon. There it is. Now we're doing it. And Susano, unfortunately, is caught out. I think one of the biggest pet peeves I have whenever I'm playing Khepri is people just like spacing out too far, being too far away from me. Not saying the Susano right there, but just like in general, because that reminds me of times where like we're just fighting and then people are just spaced out, and then they say like ultimate is ready. You know what I mean? Like your ult's global and you can like ult anybody anywhere on the map. Like come on, guys. I feel like Khepri is also one of those characters where it's like whenever your ally dies, the first thing they do is look to see if you have ult. You know what I mean? Like, Khepri is always one of those characters. The first time your ally dies, or whenever your ally dies, they always look to see when you have ult. That's the first thing they do. There's like a couple of characters in the game that do that, and Khepri is definitely one of them. So it can be a little stressful in that angle. So FG just got melted. That's pretty huge. This Merc split pushing, that's probably best, honestly, for him to do. It's a little bit annoying, but it's probably best for him to do. I kind of venture up too far a little bit over here. And I'm kind of getting owned by this Herc, but my team is owning right now. Get a nice, super nice Sprout. Nice little root. I do have my ult. I just have to, you know, be aware of everything going on. Unfortunately, I was just kind of like spaced bad. And then that ult was fine for like how I was sort of playing the fight. Nice little pluck there. And then we just want to try to body block this Merc a little bit, but it was good. That ult was like a little weird, but because I didn't know exactly, like I kind of got spun around and stuff like that, or like I spun to the right, I didn't know exactly what his HP bar was like, so it was more of like a, I think this guy's about to die kind of ult. Which is, you know, it happens, right? You can't always have perfect ults. But right there, that fight, my positioning was honestly pretty bad. And I think that fight would have gone a lot better, and CERN probably didn't have to die if I was positioned better. So that's just kind of something to look out for as well. You want to position behind or in line with your carries is what I always say with Khepri. That's in my opinion like the best way to play Khepri. And I'm getting this Phoenix. They're all about the respawn. One thing you're looking for, by the way, when you're trying to end is, okay, like what are their spawn timers as well, right? You just want to see who's up, who's down. What are their spawn timers? We saw that Herc was at like 5 seconds, right? Like Geb was at 3 seconds. Like you can't really end there. Merc was short to follow up afterwards too. Don't want to toss it. Next stop is pretty much going to be Gold Fury, Oni Fury. And one thing, by the way, I see a lot of people do, I think that's a little bit incorrect, is that if you have FG, run down the lane with it. Don't like do Primal Fury. The only Gold Fury I would say to stop and do, unless like you don't have your full team there, the only Gold Fury I'd say to stop and do would be the Oni Fury. Just because the Oni Fury like actually helps with the push. But like none of the other Gold Furies help with the push. So like, I mean, here we would do any Gold Fury anyways because we're not set up. But like if we get FG and we're all running down lane, just continue to run down lane. Like that's the best thing that you can do. I don't know why Newt's backing up right there. Oh, then I start backing up. I'm like, all right, screw this. But then he ults back over here. This is kind of funny. Yeah, I stopped him just in time. Yo, that E-Stab is kind of putting in work, though. That root did a lot of damage. And I just kind of sprued him so he just can't get away. You might say it's a waste of a relic. And I might say, no, it's not. I think, like, I mean, honestly, there's a chance he gets out there if I don't sprue him, so. Might as well lock that chance down to 0. Like, having just one person dead when you siege, it makes the siege infinitely easier. Looks like there's a big fight going on the left. My team's actually winning it, which is huge, and it just kind of allows us to split push for free. I mean, not like we have to. We're very strong. There's no doubt in my mind that we're gonna like, you know, win this game. And we're just kind of pushing through, but I want the split push. They end up getting 2 kills. That's big. And then I just call for the end. Because, like, why not, right? He's keeping him busy. I think AP just backed, but it just doesn't matter at this point, right? Like, I'm Khepri. They're double hunter. Like, we shred everything. I mean, the game's just over. So that's a little bit of a Khepri game for you guys. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. But yeah, again, for the biggest takeaways are make sure you're just consistently doing allies in a team fight. It might not seem like you're doing the most. I know most people don't find backline supports fun, but people that actually do want to learn support, and just become better at support, like backline supports are some of the best that you can play. They're very like it is much harder to play a backline support style than it is to play like, oh, I'm Bacchus, infinite like mitigations. Let me just go ahead and like run at people, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So just kind of like keep that in mind. But yeah, overall, that's the game, guys. I hope you all enjoyed this little gameplay commentary. I want to like, my goal is to pump out like a video a week of this at the very least, maybe 2. We'll see. But and just kind of like describe and go over sort of my thoughts, how I'm playing the game, and all that kind of stuff, and you know, help out people that obviously want to get better support, and also find it interesting. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I hope you all enjoyed. Until the next video, see ya.